Hi everyone, welcome to our 2025 first workshop of the year, and super excited to bring this out to everybody. But today we have a lot that is in the books. There's more than just creating a vision board, slapping some things on there, which can definitely be done. But is it going to be useful, and is it really going to be what you need it to be for the rest of the year? And so here we're having the Unlocking My Potential Vision Board workshop of 2025, brought to you by Be Nurtured. And also, we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves as we're getting started, and we'll go through the agenda as well. All righty. And so, what we have in store today is our welcome and our introduction. Who are we? What do we do? Our mindfulness icebreaker that we'll be going through together, the definition of a vision board, our biopsychosocial model, the intention setting, level of consciousness. We'll be starting our activity, and then we'll be closing out for today. Hey everybody, my name is Denise Morales. I am a licensed professional counselor associate, supervised by Dr.La Morra Cornelius, LPC supervisor. I'm also the owner of Be Nurtured Mental Health Services, and this is the kind of counseling that I provide: trauma counseling, grief, anxiety, stress, depression, behavioral, holistic support, faith-based, family, relationship dynamics, life adjustments, and my contact information is here below. I only do provide services within Texas. So if you're interested in getting service, feel free to send me email, send a text message, or give us a phone call, and we'll get you started with a free consultation.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sofia Sastre, and I'm a life coach. And I was born in Mexico, and I grew up in Colorado, and just recently moved to Oklahoma this year. I have three beautiful kids, and they are my the set of what started getting me involved. I'm also involved in a lot of family programs in Colorado, and kind of just making my way in Colorado. So I also have my contact information if you want to reach out to me.
Thank you, Sophia. So we're super excited and leading through today's conversation and discussion topics. So today, and also part of our programming, so you know a little bit about what we do. Our programming for Be Nurtured is to really make mental health programming accessible for all individuals. We know of a lot of inequities in our communities, in which it's hard to kind of find that access to mental health or just even feel connected or heard at times. And so for us, it's important that we provide a different level of like connection for community members, wherever you are, inside of Texas, outside of Texas. But some of those things that we have here is our mental health podcast, In My Feels But I'll Heal. We have psychoeducational workshops to kind of help you grow, understand mental health and wellness around that. Today's workshop as well. Support groups. So this is something we'll be developing here in the year 2025, and hopefully coming out with a training program for those that want to host or lead a support group, and as well as the added of counseling services. So under Be Nurtured Mental Health Services. So if you're interested in joining our cause and our mission, whichever way you want to participate, volunteer, be an audience, support the programming, get a donation towards us. It is all to make mental health accessible to our community, and the contact information for us is here as well. So we're going to start with our mindfulness icebreaker. So this is very much a visualization of things that you want to propel and see forward in your future. And so really here, I need you to be just like a clean slate. And so you are now actively participating as an audience member, as a member, if like um, you are in the chair and you are really going to focus in, and this is for you. I want you to own it. I want you to think about what it is that you want to envision for yourself, and we are going to gear into it. And so, really, when we go into this guided meditation, I will give you a set of instructions. You'll follow through with the instructions as most as you can for your comfortability. Please mute, please make yourself comfortable. If it means laying down, if it means sitting up, if it means being on the ground, if it means whatever you want it to mean, that is that essence of feeling at peace and feeling comfortable and calm is to you. And so for here, I'm going to ask you to sit back on your chair, and I'll do me as well. Sit back on your chair, and we're going to start with breathing. Close your eyes. So we're going to breathe in for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then hold for 2, and then breathe out like if you're blowing out through a straw, and then breathe in one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. And with each breath, sink in a little deeper into your seat, hold your breath, and blow out through a straw. Notice the tension in your body. Release that tension here in your next breath. If it's your shoulders, roll them back, let them loose. Breathe in, let those parts of your body melt off. If it's your shoulders, if it's your hands, if it's the weight of your hips, feel everything sink in deeper into your seat and create a blank slate in your mind for what you want to envision, for visualizing here things that you want to propel for your future. And this might start with a place. So think about a place. Where are you? Are you indoors? Are you outdoors? Are you by the beach? Is it a home? Is it by a tree? Are you outdoors? Indoors? Take a deep breath and paint that canvas in your mind of where you are. Look around and start noticing things that are around you within your eyes being closed, what you're visualizing in your canvas. What is there? Who's there? What do you see around you? Is it a person? Is it a pet? Is it an object? Place it wherever you want it, close to you, further away from you. Give it a distance. And now I want you to think about and feel the emotion you want to feel in this space. How do you want to feel about coming into your 2025 year? Do you feel empowered? Do you feel energized? Do you feel refreshed? Or maybe do we feel tired? Do we feel a little bit sad? Do we want to change that mood in this space? How do you want to intentfully feel in your 2025? How are you showing up in this place that you started painting on? If it's that joy, if it's that energy, give it a breath of life and tell yourself, I'm giving it life. I'm giving it life. Put your name in there, make it yours. Denise, I'm giving it life. Sofia, I'm giving it life. With each breath, sink into this vision and embrace some of the things you want to put forward in your planning and your intentions and your visualization. Come back to the things that you placed in your vision, the person, the place, the object. Even pay attention to the temperature. What does it feel like in this vision? Is it warm? Is it cozy? Is it cold? Is it breezy? Is it fresh? What does this environment feel like? And hold that vision and embrace it for yourselves. Take a deep breath, sink into your chair, and slowly come back to where you are seated. And when you're ready, you can open up your eyes. Thank you for participating in that visualization. Visualizations are very helpful, and it is part of a therapeutic technique that sometimes gets to use in counseling. And it looks different. It gets altered based on what you're going through, the things that you're experiencing, and it just gives you a moment to kind of slow down, especially when your physical environment might be chaotic, might not feel, look like the way you want it to look like. Sometimes channeling different parts of what we want to see forward in our future, or even remembering a previous memory of a place where we felt safe, felt comfortable, or we didn't feel safe and feel comfortable, but want to channel to kind of bring those forward. Visualization is something that can be very helpful to kind of get you in a spot of why was that there? And within participation of Sophia, since you are here for the visualization, can you tell us a little bit about what was in your visualization? What was there? Who was there? What did you feel?
Yeah, I can share that. I was just like every year I always want to be at the beach. And I feel like last year was so intentional about that because I just had like a newborn. So it was really like kind of blocking that intention of being at the beach. But I feel like I was able to bring it back to just having like those family trips that I always want to have every year. Just bringing the calmness, so I was with my kids
Mhm.
and at the beach. And just, I guess, listening to Bad Bunny, just listening to the vibe, his new rhythm. So just kind of setting the intention of how like good music, good company makes me just kind of like just bring me that peace and joy. So I feel like I don't know, just I just kind of got like the chills. Was like wow, just visualizing seems like almost like if I it's just like I had a dream, like oh I already went through that, kind of like I just want to like revive again that. So I feel like it's just really it's really powerful, just kind of setting that imagery in my head and just thinking of, what it's gonna be like when we're at the beach. We meet the kids just vibing and dancing. So it was really a really great technique to, set that intention.
Thank you, Sophia, for participating and also giving what you experience and your children and being at the beach, setting those intentions. You even um, like heard the music and the sounds, and so you had a
Yeah.
whole vibe or party going on. I want to be
Yeah.
invited to that vision. So that's definitely awesome. So definitely take a moment to reflect. Pause the video after you get like these set of instructions, but pretty much what objects were there, who was there, why were they there, what kind of music, and that can be very foretelling of like why is my family there or why is this said loved one there, because I value family, or why was this music on, it was playful, it was joyful, why is the beach there, I find it a place of peace, it's serenity, a place to make memories. And so kind of giving yourself that moment to analyze some of the things and objects that you place within this blank slate that you painted forward. Alrighty, yours on.
Yeah, so we're just gonna kick off with like the definition. So a visual board is a visual representation of your goals, dreams, and intentions, and like everybody has their own way of seeing those goals. Like everybody has their own unique vision of how they have their own unique dreams. What something might mean to somebody else might definitely mean something else different, and that's okay. That everybody has their own dreams that they want to achieve. And it's also a tool that usually has words, symbols, phrases, and images that inspire you and align you with what you want to achieve or want to experience in life. It's usually, works best when you put it on paper just because or even and in your a computer or how do you want to do it digitally, and it's just that intention, like sitting down, like you can talk it like me and Denise could, hey, like I have a dream to go to Puerto Rico, and like I can just talk about it. But it's like when you have that intention of getting down, getting to like looking up how you want to be there, setting a plan, you're like more likely to take action, like just kind of achieving that action. So that's why visual boards is kind of like a reminder. Hey, well, I did remind. I had a conversation about telling Denise I want to go to Puerto Rico in 2025, setting that. And how is your budget? Asking those questions. It's not just like, oh, it's a dream, but I don't want to like take any action. Then that's when you kind of like question, like, oh, where am I actually at? So it's really kind of doing a deep dive of how you want to set your goals, and then just sitting down. I usually do it like kind of having as a date by myself, so you can just have a time. Today we'll do it as in a group, but yeah, it's a really powerful tool. And no dream or it doesn't matter the size if it's small or big. Everybody has their own way of attaining those goals, what they want to pursue, and then it's okay. So and it works. That's the result, that it works when you get down and put those words and symbols down on paper or in your digital.
Yeah, and definitely think about forward how you want to take today. So today is just very much giving you definition, word for thoughts, things that you can implement, possibly some things you want to draft. But today might just be drafting. Today might
Hmm.
just be absorbing this in. It might be as we're talking that you're writing things down. However, you want to utilize this time, utilize it the way you want to. This will be a live recording. And so we'll post it back in. For those that RSVP'd, we'll send it back to you so you have it for future tense. And then for those joining us on, we'll post it afterwards. So, and any proceeds that will be acquired will be towards the nonprofit as well to make mental health more accessible. But going into the biopsychosocial model, this is something that we use here in the therapeutic setting, the therapeutic chair. But the biopsychosocial model is a great way for us to think about like what encompasses our well-being as human beings. Sometimes we tend to think that some things are isolated and don't affect one another. But here in the biopsychosocial model, it kind of lets us know that everything's intertwined. Everything is kind of like a web and interconnected with each other. And so I do want you, as I'm going through this, to think about how this relates to you, what's affecting you within these buckets. And possibly it also gives you like a little footprint of maybe things that you should be considering in your 2025 planning. Sometimes we think 2025 planning, when we think about our goals and our initiatives, are just big ticket items. That trip to Puerto Rico, that big car, the house, some of these big things. But sometimes to even achieve that level of wanting these big ticket items, we have to take care of like these immediate priorities that tends to be our health, tends to be family, friends, our mood, and how we're doing in our well-being, so we can achieve those things later on. And so starting us off here in the bio is biological. So biological is the makeup of you. Like think about this in the most scientific way. This can be your gender, physical disabilities. Can be your hormones, genetic composition, stress reactivity, your brain chemistry, pretty much the makeup of you in the biological sense. Things that affect here is if you have chronic diseases. Sometimes people don't even know that hyperthyroidism is highly linked to depression. And so maybe you've been dealing with something in the physical sense, not knowing how it's been affecting you in the psychological way. Maybe you're taking some medication that gives you adverse reactions, looking into those adverse reactions, and maybe it starts making sense like, oh, that makes sense why I have a temperament or why I've been dealing with this or having extreme fatigue. Maybe you've been having a cold for several weeks and not knowing why, like you just kind of feel agitated or feeling on edge and really no aguantas a nadie because you're here, you're in your bubble, and you're like, I don't feel well. And so taking care of those biological needs sometimes does look like preventative care. Like, have we gone to the dentist? Have we gotten some blood work done this year? Are we running? Are we exercising? What are we feeding into our bodies nutritionally? And so thinking about yourself in the biological sense. Moving into psychological. Psychological is our mood, behaviors, our coping tools, mechanisms, our self-esteem, our emotions. And so how do we feel about ourselves? Like has this year been a year where I just really haven't felt that hot about myself? And I like maybe have been more pessimistic than optimistic. Maybe have an attitude that nobody wants to help me. And so really checking in with those coping tools and mechanisms. And this is something I really like to tell my patients is that we all come with a toolbox, but sometimes we don't have the adequate tool in our toolbox to help us with certain issues that we're managing or dealing with. And sometimes the discovery of like adjusting to new things and getting through difficult situations is just us finding a new coping tool, new coping skill to help us get through that difficult situation. So pay your attention to your herramienta, like what is in there, what do you need in order to get by? Am I needing extra professional help? Am I needing to sit down with myself and start some self-improvement? And it's a very hard place to be, especially if you've been dealing with it for a long time. you don't have to carry that weight. You don't have to carry that heaviness. There's definitely options. Therapy being one, going into your social life is also part of like your mental well-being. So have I been isolated? Have I maybe not been the best towards sorted individuals or towards myself? And so going into the social aspect of the biopsychosocial aspect model here is how you interact with the world and how the world interacts with you. And so here you're thinking about education, finances, your relationships, your family background, social economic statuses. And so maybe I don't have the best job. And maybe the job that I do have, I really hate it. And I it's affecting me physically because I'm just overworking my body and psychologically, like I just don't even have the best attitude to be here. So like socially, when my boss tells me to do something, like I'm giving attitude and sass, but really I just hate this environment. And so coming to realize like what is your environment doing for you socially? Or how am I showing up and presenting myself? How are other people showing up for me in the social aspect and circle? Is there any part of like me that I want to level up in this realm of how I interact with the world professionally? And so this is just kind of the onion of your well-being circles that you can think about. And for me, I usually like to tell people like this is a great inventory to do at the start of the year, mid-year to see how you've been doing, just when you kind of feel at a loss. It's a great like great model to kind of implement to help you like rearrange what's going on in your life. And so here I just put some life categories for you as we're moving through today's workshop that you can think about. Okay, maybe this is what I want to write down. So health and wellness being one, and this kind of breaks down the biopsychosocial model, but just in a simple like tab format: your health and your wellness, career and your education, your relationship, financial goals, personal growth, hobbies, recreation, spiritual growth, travel and adventure. In the biopsychosocial model, it doesn't have their spirituality, but coming from like a Christian university, we were also taught the biopsychosocial spiritual model. So if you're faith believing individual and your faith is important to you, maybe that's something you're incorporating into there. And then Sophia will be guiding more towards these and being realistic towards these. Sophia, is there anything else you would like to add on to this one?
I think that the main ones that I would always focus as well, just family, I think, kind of goes along with the main one of like your relationships, wanting, depending on your values, if you would like have a category for family, I think it shows, kind of does one. And also, personal growth, professional, I think it's just, yeah, you got them down. Yeah, so we're gonna jump into the set your intention. One of the key things that I talk about also in life coaching is also like the intention. It's not really like the individual, we usually use like tags to be like, no, I'm just lazy or I'm just like, certain things. But when you really set the intention, kind of changes the tone and does that shift to really what you want to define, what you want to achieve. If it's like if you keep saying yourself every day, oh, I'm just lazy, I don't do anything right, well, uh it's not gonna get you out of that voice, the internal voice, until you can do that shift, like, okay, my intention is really to like start my day by wanting to go for a walk, wanting to achieve if it's something professional, having to go to a coffee shop and do like answer emails, kind of just actionable steps sets the intention of, like, well, that's also achieving something, if it matters to you. So really be specific about your goals. You can talk about, yeah, like I want to go doing this travel, but when you get down and like look at your budget, look at your times that you can go, like all that gets more specific and sets the image more clear of how you're gonna achieve. If it's like maybe the next year, that's also okay. Visual boards are not usually to be like on the beginning of the new year. It works, because it's like you want to start more clear and like kind of like a reset, it's a new year, new month. But anytime when you have that intention that you want to make a change for yourself, not for others, like, oh, I want to change how my family views me. No, it's just like it starts with yourself. Like you want to do it in the middle of the year, that's also great, If you want to do it like during a Wednesday, like a random day of the week, it works. It's just setting that intention that you want to make a change and that you want to specifically work on something. If you kind of set in a week that you want to do all these changes, but you don't have actionable, how you're going to take them and carry it away within the year, like of course it's going to fall in because you just like put all your emphasis on, oh, I'm gonna go walk every single day of the week, and the next week you're like, oh, I got a flu, and I kind of just mess up your whole schedule. And they're like, oh no, see, I'm not good to be fair or something. With like those words are gonna like move that intention. But if like kind of just being empathy with you. Like, hey, yeah, I had a flu. Let's get back on schedule. Maybe like going, inviting a friend to go on a walk with me and achieve that goal that at the end of the day, you set the habit of going on a walk at least 4 or 5 times a week. And it just, reflects what really true matters to you, which is actually just being healthy or just being creating more of that healthy habit, and not just being so hard on yourself. So that's what we said, that setting those clear intentions, how we want to and ensure that our vision aligns with our personal beliefs, with the long-term aspirations. Kind of one of Denise was talking about how those sections, help us look what really matters and just kind of keeping a balance, like if you focus so much on professional, but at the end of the day, you're not even eating, how are you gonna function and how are you gonna put and show your best, at work and also with yourself. So, just make sure that you see what really matters to you and then how you can also just keep it aligned and not just because it's eventually it might disalign, but it's also uh, a new actionable time that you can take some more action and just set more clear goals and always shifting and always I heard someone that it's from wise people to change your mind. You can always change your mind, you can always change your goal and now you're not gonna be like, hey, I have to lose 30 pounds in within 6 months and you're like the 6 months comes and you didn't lose, like it's okay, you can change. Well, okay, you just be more empathy with you, okay, well this didn't work, let me try something, a new diet or setting, so just don't be so hard on yourself. So that would be another intention, to not be so hard on yourself.
And that's really good, reminding yourself to be like adjustable and flexible to these changes and that you can set forward a goal at any point. It shouldn't just be like at the beginning of the year and then you kind of lose of it and then you feel like, oh, well, I wasted the rest of the year, so I'm not going to do anything. No, no, maybe you're doing a reset at any point, even in December.
Yeah.
But it all starts with like a small habit. You said like, starting somewhere, just making a routine, being disciplined about it, and not giving up on yourself. Like I'm for reals, I cannot. I try to work out by myself, but I like working out in groups because I like the pressure of a group setting. And so just recognizing like, well, why hasn't this worked for me in the past, and what can I do to adjust and move around so it does work for me in the future?
hmm Yeah, we'll jump into the model of the map of consciousness. And this one is from it's a map. It's really famous, and it's also you can look it up more in the internet. But it's on from the teachings from Dr. David Hawkins. And he was a doctor that studied kinesiology, which is like the study of the muscles. And he had about 1,000 patients that they were just coming into his clinic and they were, just kind of like kind of saying a certain language, kind of complaining about certain pain that they're feeling. And he started looking more into his language. And language is such a powerful tool that it's just kind of like that hidden key that we all have, like when you unlock it, when you unlock the wisdom that is behind every word that we say that comes out of our mouth, that's in our thoughts, is, how we can really get into those results that we want to manifest, you know. And then this table talks about that is divided into the truth and falsehood. And it talks about how when we all have the ego, and the ego is practically another tool to help us kind of do more deep dive of ourselves to how we want to really present ourselves, when we see love. So in this table, it talks about how from pride all the way to shame is the lowest frequency of energy, which translates that we're all energy, so that we kind of all have energy. It's kind of like even like that quote that like, oh, I sense this bad energy or I sense this good energy because there is energy. is when that intention is like when somebody has this language that I'm not worthy, I'm not enough, I don't do anything good, that's a language of, really kind of low and that's like a low energy, So this map is just kind of that I wanted to present it to how within the level of consciousness that we have, it's how we're gonna carry ourselves. If you had like a terrible week, in a way that you like a lot of events happen in your week, and I think you're like, oh, I'm gonna just do a vision board, but you're just doing it out of like, oh, I need to something get out of my head to not think about the week. Of course, you're not such in a good spot. So you're just gonna choose like, oh, I'm gonna have to get a mansion, I'm gonna have to get $1 million. Of course, you're gonna think more as in like how the world views out there what luxury or what attainable goals are. But in reality, like if that's not gonna do any you good, then like what you put thought in the first place, just kind of do like, okay, at this place, maybe I need to change my job. Maybe that's not working for me, kind of like understanding that's a level of consciousness that you come to an understanding that maybe it's time to change, So this level of consciousness makes us just realize that when we are in a language, of courage, like the first day is to go to talk to your boss the next day that you're gonna put in your 2 weeks. It takes courage in that, that it's not on him and that he doesn't take it personal, that it's for you. It's for you to maybe do a change of life, maybe do a change of habits that maybe can lift you up. So this model of consciousness helps that unmask, really unmask those ways that we can have that inner wisdom when we change our language, that when we do more things out of love, it's like tenace, like when you want something, you just want to do something nice. If it's just giving money to the street vendor, for something, you're not really expecting anything in return, that's love. That you kind of like bless them for the rest of the day. And even yourself setting that intention from the very beginning of the week, like the day. That's one of the things that I have put in myself that if I didn't put it in my vision board, but it's something that I did it kind of like in the middle of November, with kind of like around Thanksgiving, it's kind of like being more aware of how to show gratitude to my kids, And it was just in November, like kind of such a random month, because we're almost at the end of the, and I kind of just been practicing. And some days I might forget, some days I don't, but it's just kind of like, okay, I'm understanding that when I kind of go down my list in the morning that like I want to be grateful for the things that I have. It just kind of sets me in a tone that okay, like what I'm doing is, enough for me. Like I shouldn't be so hard on myself. And acceptance, that the language that I say, especially if you have kids, once you understand that like there's little people watching you, like sometimes you kind of have to digest and say, oh, should I say this word? How should I say this what I'm about to say? Or, kind of take like a 5-second rule that like, okay, I'm gonna think about before what I say because kids are observing and even our surroundings. Another thing is about how we want to honor our word, how we're talking about the intention. Like when you said I'm an honor, kind of like if you put a contract, maybe it could help you, like do a vision board. And then yes, I'm gonna honor my word. Like yes, I'm gonna do this habit that it might be hard for you at the beginning to wake up maybe at 6 in the morning, but that you say you're gonna do it, like okay, maybe not this week, and eventually, you as long as like that is gonna set a good tone. If not just gonna like, oh, if you want to read a business book and they're telling you, yeah, go read, wake up at 6, but if it doesn't, it's not functional for you, then don't stress about it too much. Don't be so hard on yourself. So another thing is that it's like honoring your word because it's like that's it. That's what we have. Like your word. Like if it eventually like not being honest to your word, like how are you gonna show that honesty to others? You know? So this is what the map of consciousness kind of does that for us, just give us a visual look of how we can just have that the energy carry eventually everywhere we go, everywhere. Who do you want to be against this situation? If you're down the road and you get a flat tire, like, are you gonna get all mad and angry? Are you gonna be in suffering? Or are you just gonna take a pause and be like, okay, maybe have a courage to ask, call somebody like you haven't called before and help you with the tire, and that could unlock, maybe, oh, I haven't had this friendship in a while, and just kind of just always discovering about more about yourself. And I feel like that's what this level of consciousness does more, seeing that you're not limited to seeing one thing, one way of seeing things until when you take action, that you're able to see more than just that there's more options for you.
Yeah, and that's really important that you mentioned because the narrative you play in your mind is something that you
Mm-hmm.
believe as truth for yourself. So if you keep telling yourself, "Well, I suck, I suck, I suck, I suck," so why even try? Like you mentioned before,
Mm-hmm.
you fall to defeat because you already believe in your mind that you suck, so you're already giving up. And so even changing that tonality, that narrative that you have in your mind and telling you, "Well, I'm adjusting, I'm getting better, I'm working at it, I'm working at it." And so recognizing that you have to start somewhere in order to get there. And it's hard to change a mindset that maybe has been a lot more darker than it has been enlightened. And maybe getting into the root, like, why do I feel angry all the time? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how did anger present itself in my past? And why is it something that I incline to so easily versus something that is happier? And that's a deep exploration, but narratives are really
Mm-hmm.
important.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll jump into the arranging my garden and my mental emotional garden. This is an example that I also done, that it was presented to me at the beginning of the year of how like I was like, like I really want to set this intention, like I have kids, I'm a mom, and like, like I really want to how can I present myself? And just because I want to be more intentional of my actions, because of my kids are watching. It's like I can't tell them to go read a book when I'm like, I can be on my phone all day and be like, hey, why didn't you read a book? Like, well, mom, well, you haven't read a book, It's just like I want to set those little habits, and it's just kind of like how we want to set those garden, like that. We all have our emotional garden, when Denise talks about the visual, it brought me back to my peaceful place that is being at the ocean. But it's also like a garden, that like we're not just here for just like randomness. Like we're here with the universe, and the universe is within connected with us, and that we also have nature with us, and they tell you the most simplest thing when you're feeling so overwhelmed is just to breathe. How can we breathe when we need that? And it's through oxygen. We need the oxygen is given to us through nature, that we need trees and garden. So this is how this is an example that I wanted to bring about how we can all arrange our mental, just a simple example that you can use even for yourself or your family. Like you think of a garden, there's gonna be seasons that are gonna be dry and that you're gonna have to like take those weed out and kind of fertilize them, kind of dig in. You don't have to get dirty, but it's also good, like, okay, how is this weed? Why did this weed went out? Like, what did I didn't garden my plants? Like, why didn't I garden my plants? Just kind of those things. And also, when you think about like those results of the beautiful flower, that we are all that beautiful flower, that we're all have that in us. So this is how we're gonna take some time to contemplate our life throughout how is our garden, like yes, maybe this is a good time that it's January, and like let's look at our previous year. So even just last year, like okay, what did you accomplish? How was your garden last year? Having when you go through all the months, like how was I feeling last year at this time? Okay, let me think about maybe just use a word, don't get too detailed, maybe if that's an emotion within that you having that around this time last year. Also just kind of okay, just kind of closing, do more like a closing time, okay, in order to move in this chapter with this new year, that you can bring the harmony, like what's blooming, what's overgrown, what are my new accomplishments, what did I do something that I wanted to also bring again this year, so yeah, now let's go deep dive into let's fix our garden. So let's say if you have a blank piece of paper or you have your notes or your computer, just get a blank note. And then we're gonna maintain our fertile soil and in your mind. So let's get going. So let's work on our garden. So we're gonna arrange our garden. So one of the questions, in coaching, we do a lot of powerful questions because everybody has that inner wisdom. We're not here to give you advice like, oh yeah, you need to do this in order to do it. Like I can know that something works for me, but I know it might not work for somebody else, and everybody else has a different way of living their lifestyle. So that's what we do questions. You just go back to the other one. Um, to yeah, that one to arranging my garden. So, the questions kind of just do more like a reflection, It's okay, like what do you want to let go of? You know, What did not contribute to you or did not work for you today? For me, um, it's something that like my tone. Like sometimes I get super overwhelmed at the middle of the day, and I'm like, okay, maybe I need to make that voice to my partner, to my kids, be like, hey, I'm gonna step out a little bit because I'm being up and down, picking up the kids from school and dinner and all of this. So I feel like, okay, for me, what did not work, that all of a sudden I just wanted to run out of the house, but I just actually need to voice it because I have responsibilities. So I sometimes I feel like people read my mind, but in reality, I'm the only one who's like harming myself by actually thinking other people read my mind, but they don't, So like my kids are not gonna read my mind. The mom is just she's overwhelmed. So something that did not work for me, it was assuming people could read my mind. Just simple as that. It was so okay. I want to let go of the assumptions. And so this is another question is how just kind of take out those bad weeds, So another one is what is it that you don't accept, So that's another question that you can kind of answer if you want more like time for yourself. And these are just brief questions, and we're gonna have this for you to also um go look at it more, reflect. And at the end, it's just the work for yourself. Like the deeper you are and honest you are, the more you're gonna be like, okay, yeah, it's actually I'm not cool with looking at my phone first thing in the morning, It doesn't do me any good. Maybe I should like put my phone on the side or charge my phone in another place, instead of just kind of like doing affirmations first thing in the morning, just set the tone. Because at the end it's just, like that work that you do for yourself is just the greater result that you're gonna give eventually when you start reflecting and things aligning, when you see some things wrong with you, like you're gonna go out and kind of program and see that there's something else and wrong with the world as well, but then until you do that inner dive, that okay, maybe I'm too hard or too criticized myself, or I criticize myself and then eventually criticize others, and I think others criticize me. But the first thing is that you started criticizing yourself. And maybe others were just, seeing other ways and just saying a word and you put in a different sentence and then you kind of took it too personal. Maybe that's a key, if you took it personal, okay, how is this affecting me? So it's like, but what do you want to accept today, the only one that you could transform is you. So this is how these questions, help. Another one, do you forgive or not forgive yourself? This is a big one, kind of like even forgiving yourself for um maybe the things that you assumed that should have happened last year and it didn't. Maybe something's out of your control, and that's okay. When you accept that things are not in our control, but it's like, who do you want to be within that situation? So that's the guardian. What limiting behaviors do you want to stop practicing? That's another question that you can ask. What people do you want to let go? That's an honest one. Kind of saying to the intention, like maybe having this person around my life is not bringing too much peace or not doing the intention that like I was setting for myself. How can you eventually, and it's all kind of be internally, like you don't have to go and maybe, and if it works for you, great, like, oh, I don't have to, I'm not gonna talk to you anymore because maybe just kind of doing a letter like to that person and eventually it's just gonna like slowly, dissolve that friendship or dissolve that relationship that might have not worked for you. And another one, what expectations put you on pause? So that's another one that you can just kind of like look into, like maybe what can I bring back and want to work on myself that I haven't worked, so and that they prevent you from moving on forward. So yeah, another one is like what is like a behavior that is not making me forward to what I wanted to accomplish. So it's just really cleaning out, and the more weights and the more when you're centering to what you want to take out, the more clear you have to know, okay, what's my ground, what's my dirt that I my okay, what can I work on with that I have? Not just bring out other plants from other places or tell somebody else or like, hey, Denise, what do you have in your garden? Let me have some of that. Yes, we can listen to Denise and she can give you great tips on how do we fertilize our ground, and it works for her. And then she could maybe ask a question, okay, what did you do last year that you didn't do that you could do this year? Maybe eventually, be like, oh yeah, I can do that, and I can work it in my garden this year, you know. But I'm not just gonna steal her flowers, you know, like her practice because for her it works for certain habits, and for me it could be like, okay, something else could work for me, and just adjust it to me. And then just at the end, just being really authentic with yourself. I think it's just how not to force things, you know. So once you have cleaned out your garden, we will continue cultivating and watering it to what when you until you love your garden.
Do you want to continue on this slide or you, sorry,
We have. Do you want? What do you think?
up to you.
Okay. Oh, well, we'll continue with the flowers.
Mhm.
Um, the flowers. Is another question. You know, when you think of these beautiful flowers, I remember growing up when I was in Mexico. My grandma always had plants. And I didn't know like why was there just always plants at the house, and like now that I think about it, it just always brought like just brighten up everybody's, you know, days that she would just always water them. Like she would talk to her flowers. Like if you even think about that example, like they know that like when you talk to a flower, bad energy, bad words, the flower is gonna dry or die out fast, you know, because it sends that energy. And just like that, you know, like when we are water ourselves, which we are those flowers, you know, in this example, like of course we're gonna feel like more empowered to tackle on any task, you know. Um, for me, like I had my kids when I was in college, and I was always involved in like personal development. And I think that's one of the, now that I think about it, it's like nobody else told me to go to school and raise kids. And I was just always telling myself, you know, like you can do it. Like just think about the finish line. Like think about how you're also like setting the example for your kids. And I always feel like if you tell me to do it again, I was like, wow, I'm in a different place. But I always feel like that was another encouragement that I was doing by myself during that time. I was watering the flower, you know, because I had little flowers next to me that were watching me, and I wanted to just like that example of, you know, like, hey, like, you know, when you said the intention, for me, my intention was to finish college, and I did, and it was just having that great support. Another thing, you know, having that support. So for me, what, you know, in this one is like, what things did you like? You know, just always think about the positive. What's functional for you? What made you smile? Just that simple question. Like for me, you know, what made me smile today was just like seeing that the sun was out, you know, that there was sunshine and the day was getting warmer. And so what moment do you treasure that question, you know, when certain thoughts come around? It's like, okay, what moments do you treasure? Kind of like remembering of those moments, you know, that made you feel good, you know, spending time with your loved ones during the holidays, you know. So those are flowers. What flowers do you want to continue growing and blooming? So about you, your attributes, your personality. What do you want to keep continuing, you know? And a lot of this is a reflection of you, you know, like how do you maintaining those good friendships says a lot about yourself, how you see how you're a good friend with yourself, you know? So what do you appreciate about your gardening? That's another thing that sometimes it can be so hard. Be like, no, I'm not good in this, or I'm not good in this hobby, or, you know, but like, wait, hey, what I appreciate about me is that, like, I love cooking. I love looking up recipes, you know, I love bringing on new taste buds to my family. I appreciate about like trying out new stuff. And that's something that we can add on to this year. And how do you share your love? You know, how do you receive love? If you want to do more deep dive of what kind of the five languages of love, you know, how do you want to communicate? What physical gifts and spiritual things did this year bring you? So it could be like last year, you know, looking back into how even physical gifts that you attain and even the spiritual ones, so you know that you might not think of like, oh, I did not get the $1 million that I thought of, but you have a wealth of your family, a wealth of that you have a great connection with others and with yourself, and that says a lot. That's great abundance as well, you know. So those are the things about the flowers. And next, we're going to fertilize your garden. So to fertilize the land of the seeds that you will sow later. So the fertilizer, so in this as well, you can go write down, you can just take time, or you can just do a mental note or draft some as if you want. So write down what you could add to your life that brings you closer, aligns with your loved ones, or desires heart, you know. So for me, family, my family time is one of my core values, you know, what I want to show my kids of what family means. If it's like having dinner without any distractions, you know, having that intentional time to just kind of eat and talk about our day, like that's what aligns in. And I feel like if I ever have start a business, okay, like I'm gonna make sure that it's done by dinner time, you know, because it aligns to have dinner with my family and not just always being out of my business eventually 12 hours a day and not seeing my kids, and it's like, okay, who am I really doing it for? You know, it's just kind of setting that example. And throughout my years, I feel like all the opportunities I had bring up kind of have a line, you know, I have three kiddos and I have been able to be blessed to, you know, do opportunities where I have been able to have my kids around. You know, my mom has helped me watch them and I do certain workshops or I do my life coaching, and just that it kind of aligns with that desire of, you know, always having a balance. Okay, like I'm gonna be certain hours of the day, but then I get back to mom duties. So that's another way I keep fertilizing those things that align with me in my life. What are those acts of love that you want to give yourself to remind your mind and your body that you love them, that you thank them and look for them, you know? So it's those kind of acts of love that well, when you tell yourself like, okay, I'm gonna moisturize my skin, that you love your skin, you know, like you take care of it. It's like that you remind yourself that, you know, your needs are first, then eventually to take care of others. So this is some of the acts of love that you remind yourself, you know, that you keep fertilizing throughout the year, throughout the months and the weeks, you know, what works for you. And that self-care, you know, taking that day off for yourself or even a day, you know, eating your favorite foods or just kind of like taking a walk, reading a book that you're like giving those nutrients to your body. And also that bring you peace, you know. It's not like, oh my God, I need to do a self-care because if I don't, you know, kind of like what language are you using, you know, kind of setting that if it gives you peace to know having some time, even maybe by the whole family or by a friend to go for a self-care day, that could also be a way to, you know, bring that peace and joy. Another one is that the wellness. What wellness is practice do you want to include in your life? I feel like that one, I keep kind of just always brainstorming, you know, like when I was in high school, I was great at other things, you know, like now that my life is more busier, like how can I incorporate more time for myself? Maybe I don't get to like do the same activities that I was doing in high school or in college. So, like how can I incorporate that and how I want to include that in my life, you know, and keep that balance. And the key is what language do you want to speak? You know, like what language are you using to relate to yourself and to those other examples? And what kind of people do you want to hang out with? You know what, that's kind of making that more choices. And now that we have fertilized the fertile soil, yeah, it's time to sow seeds of health, peace, and joy, and opportunity for expansion. The seeds, you know, it's kind of like, what do you want to manifest? Like, what do you want to set the intention for this upcoming year? You know, what do you, when you were doing the exercise with Denise, you know, what did you see? Like, what do you want to recreate? You know, we are the creators of our lives. You know, when we think that we put those, like nobody else are putting limitations. We put ourselves those limitations when we kind of close those doors, like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to afford that trip. Or how can I even think of going out for a trip? We know like my life looks like this, you know, it's like that language again. Like how do we wanna achieve that dream, you know, if it's having like by the end of the year, in the middle of the year that you wanna go to a certain destination is, you know, like kind of like seeing it, maybe even seeing yourself and as an example, somebody like doing that passport, like if you want to put like stamping passport, like making like kind of recreating that you're already living the moment, eventually, kind of like you feeling it, that you're telling yourself like it's gonna happen, I see it. And what do you want to experience in your life? That's a powerful question. It's like, when you're setting the tone to what do you want to see for yourself within this life, like how do you want to experience certain situations? It talks about also how bringing in the table, the map of consciousness, how do you want to experience when an event happens in your life? Like, do you want to be in that ego part that like, oh, always the bad things happen to me, or I have bad luck, oh, why it's the universe against me? There's so much things out there that we have programmed ourselves to, that we hear from the collective, that, oh, if your coffee spilled in the morning, like you're gonna have a bad day. Like, how do you want to experience that? Like that your coffee just spilled. How can we neutralize? Oh, well, my coffee spilled. Like nothing's. This doesn't determine how my day is gonna go or how my week is gonna go for the rest of the months. So it's like, how do you want to experience your life? Even just doing those little reminders. If it's putting a note on your mirror first thing in the morning, or even in your phone, because that will give you a different lens of how you will see life, and you just see that simplicity of things that you don't really have to do much, that it's in within you, that you until like you feel that peace is the peace gonna carry it away, and then eventually that manifestation is also like where you that tone, like if you're doing it from ego, like, oh, if I don't have the car that I said myself I was gonna get it, like, oh, I'm not good enough. It's like, okay, like why do you actually even need the car? Like, why do you even need the house or the mansion? It's like kind of doing that, being more intentional about our manifestations. For me, it's just like always setting a tone of experience of, if it's just seeing my kids enjoy themselves at the park, like I want to experience that I'm just living the moment, really another thing that manifestation in these words, in this example invites us to be bringing the present, that if you're just here with your family having dinner, but in your mind you're like, oh my God, I need to work 12-hour days to get the $10,000 in order to get in the car, but you're not enjoying the simplicity that you're just eating dinner. Then it's like, what's the purpose of really attaining that what you actually those materialistic things when it's just that like experiencing the same joy, just eating your favorite meal with your family, having a great time. Could be also the same joy when you like maybe get the card, but it's just kind of how um you experience and what words you want to use and what do you want to share with the world. A lot of things people in coaching we use the question of purpose of self, that we think of an anchor, that an anchor when you think of a boat, like they throw it, and it's those things. It's like, I am peace, I am joy, and like those words, how do you want to share that to the world? But that's the message, instead of being more in the, who I need to be, have my purpose, like what's my purpose? If I'm not good in this hobby, like what am I good at? And just always kind of like putting that exigiéndote, like you're always asking, okay, I need to do good or this, or I need to show the world that I'm doing this, but with those words in the table, that like when you are accepting, like you accept yourself and you accept others, it's like how you just sharing that to the self, to the world as well, So the big one is plan with intention, water with emotion and attention, and thus manifestation would flourish. So right, imagine, feeling. And the big one, just trust in yourself, trust in your abilities, that you're able to create and imagine great things and set good goals for yourself.
And thank you for sharing that, because sometimes we don't tend to take the moment to kind of reflect, like you kind of mentioned at the beginning, like what is in your garden.
Hmm.
Even for me, when I visualize my mental garden of my well-being, mentally, physically, emotionally, there's some parts where like my garden is really, really robust, and then there's some parts of my garden that are like really dead. And even physically, like I have plants that I moved in inside, and there's some plants that didn't even make it that were inside anyways that I was trying to save from the freeze. Um,
Hmm.
and so that mentally just tells me like there is work to be done in my garden. and that I need to go dig up the weeds that like have maybe rooted themselves and think they
Mm-hmm.
have a place to live in, such as negative words, negative thoughts, negative feelings. And so those are some of the things that I really need to like weed out in my garden and
Mm-hmm.
then replenish. I need to replenish with new seeds. Like, what are my intentions? What do I want to look forward? What do I want to do now? And when we have a cosecha, when we have a harvest that's coming up, some of these things take time. You don't just seed and see the fruit tomorrow. You
Mm-hmm.
maybe seed today and you'll see the fruit in 3 months. You'll see the fruit in
Mm-hmm.
6 months. And so the end result of when you get to see these things really bloom take a while, but also depends on how much did you water your seed? How much did
Mm-hmm.
you fertilize it? Did you leave it for the sun to like get that nourishment? Like how much did you actually nourish these thoughts, feelings, emotions, intentions for you to really get to enjoy them?
Yeah, kind of brings me to like the Bible verse of like the talents, that if you have a great talent and like if you kind of hit it out and it's like, well, see, like I could have done this at the end of the year, I had this goal, but if you really didn't like get to work, you're like, how are you gonna see your results? Like if you just put the seed and just hope magically it's gonna bloom out of nowhere, but if you don't like fertilize it, water it, and take care of it, like in a given time, like how the seed is eventually like gamma blew out. There's certain flowers that in certain places that like in the desert, like you don't need water, but they're still bloom. But in here, like samples, like if you don't put that work as well, like how are you gonna see your results? So it's just kind of putting your talents to work and not just think like, oh, magically results are gonna happen.
Yeah. And even in here, you put trust. And for me, in a
Hmm.
spiritual sense, like trust is really important. Like I trust that
Yeah.
God knows my heart's desires. And I know that He will always pave a path, even if it means redirection. And so just having trust that like things will work out, even when they feel really, really tight, like He's a way maker. And so for me, it's like there's always a way, even when the
Hmm.
options feel limited. So that's very
Yeah.
powerful. All right, y'all. So now it's time to unlock my potential. So we definitely want you to own it. It's not just yours, mine, whose, we's, it's yours. And so for me, it's unlocking Denise's potential, unlocking Sophia's potential, unlocking Eileen's potential, taking the time to really do that at the beginning of the workshop. We mentioned to you, like, um, that this workshop might be just a drafting session, something for you to just observe, maybe listen to, or maybe really get to thinking like, what do I want in my vision planning for 2025? And even if you don't start that now, it's already the mid of January. Time goes by fast when you're working, your mother, your friend, your
Hmm.
partner. There's so many things that are just not isolated. And so maybe it means that here in the next like 3 months that I'm really now sitting down and having time to look through all these things, and this recording will be available for you to like begin it from the start. But we did provide an example of some of the vision board that are created in the past, but does need some altering. Sophia, do you want to add anything else here?
No, it's just that we all have that potential. It's just we have the keys in those thoughts and those words and that language that we use to really unlock it. And when we do a deep dive, like I mentioned, when you reflect and kind of ask yourself questions, why do I really want this? Like, why? It's just to, if it doesn't really bring you that joy and peace, maybe take a step back. Be like, okay, how is it really gonna give me that peace? That if you're expecting that outside somebody's gonna show you your potential and be like, hey, you're so great at this, and you can listen to that, but to like you believe it yourself, you can give it your best. So yeah, I feel like this give me a time to also like reflect on how throughout the years I just always had like little seeds that I have put like kind of throw, and then like eventually like the years come by when I keep like I fertilize them and I water them, and I just like as I'm in my new era, like my mom era, like how it's just gonna God put for me to just put those seeds to show and be my best self every day, every time with my kids. And yeah, I just invite everybody to, always, there's no wrong time to do a vision board. This is just an example that you can just unlock it in the beginning of the year, that you have more tools. I like that. We just are adding another tool to your toolbox.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's definitely very powerful. And so here's just an example of mine. Some people just write it out, whatever their goals are, their
Hmm.
initiatives. Some people do digital ones, some people do paperback ones. We'll be opening up a Canva link that we'll be sharing with participants. If you want to start on your board today, or work throughout the week, but then want to have somewhere where you're reflecting on it with the slides, and so we'll share that here in the chat with you here in a bit. But just to kind of take you through my vision board, which definitely needs some adjustments. So this is
Hmm.
kind of last year's and putting forward this year, so it needs some heavy editing. But I put it into different buckets, all centering around me, and then just adding some words and phrases. So I put prioritizing me, myself, and I. And I feel like that's something I've always said at the end of the day. Yes, we have our loved ones and we have our family and our friends, but at the end of the day, when I come home and like I have to bathe myself, I have to bathe myself. I have to wake myself up. I have to clothe myself. I have to feed myself. And so if I can't do any of those within my physical, mental well-being, I really can't give into these other areas. But prioritizing me, myself, and I does mean family and friends, planning for success, having healthy love relationships, me seeking out my faith and staying active. Definitely, I started really active, and then I got pregnant, and it was like, yeah, this took me for a whirlwind. And then for Be Nurtured, it's definitely grown. It was in the seeds for me to have in my Feel That I Feel podcast. Um, and I do have it. We have all the episodes out. And I definitely want to grow it into a different direction. I wanted to secure some type of funding for a mental health programming. It didn't propel too much forward, but it's still something I can move into this next year. So adjusting mental health resources for minority communities. We definitely set out a lot of workshops, a lot of resources. We shared a lot of information on Instagram. On here, I had real estate investment and financial goals. I let go of after realizing that it wasn't really serving me much purpose. It's something that I've completely dropped, so it's not even in the vision for 2025. So it's something I'm gonna take off of here. I definitely got to finish my master's, and I definitely want to continue to work on some credentials. So think about the different pockets we talked about earlier, that we had here, such as the health and wellness, let's see, career and education, relationships, financial goals, personal growth, hobbies and recreation, spiritual growth, travel and adventure, that can just kind of help you map out and do the things you want to put in there for 2025. But, sometimes it just starts with, let me sit here, let me evaluate the past year, let me just start with a blank slate. Let me just write it down. I know some people are creative. Some people are like, I don't really care to be creative, but I like my color coded notes, and that's okay too. But yeah, I hope this workshop was definitely useful for you, fruitful for you coming into this new year. It definitely was for me, and thank you so much, Sophia. Is there anything else you would like to include?
No, I think it summarizes everything that we wanted to touch on. I mean, I also thank you as well for giving me the space and the trust, to take on this project that we wanted to share to the people, So I think um it just adds more value into my toolbox of like, okay, like how can we reflect, analyze and dig dive more. Okay, like what tools do I need to kind of polish a little bit more? Like what can I like grow, do some more growth, and just just show that love and kindness and peace or
Hmm.
self that,
Yeah.
and to others.
And there's definitely a lot of disencouragement that happens in the process of achieving our goals. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
we don't achieve them at the time that we want to. Sometimes we don't have the finances to achieve them at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes there's just a lot of people giving us their opinion, versus like how we feel that we can actually manage or have that self-belief or self-confidence of getting it done. And so sometimes bringing silence to those environments definitely
Mm-hmm.
help, being in a place of solitude, sometimes fasting, sometimes it means adjusting. So whatever it is that needs to be done, just know that like you have that ability in you to adjust, be flexible, and achieve the things you want to, even if it's not in the way you thought you would achieve them. Mhm.
Mhm.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much, everybody, for participating in today's workshop. We'll definitely have this up for everybody that wants to rewatch, and we'll be sending out here the link for the collaboration if you want to do your vision board online. But thank you so much, everybody, and have a great night. Thanks, y'all.